Well, I want to hear even more about the album, but first, I want to hear another one. It's Chris Smither live here in Studio B.
When the sun goes down, and I wonder, was it ever rising? When the moonlight falls on some never-to-be-seen horizon, oh, my heart sinks again. My will bend to the thought that I'm done before I've really begun. There's just one thing that keeps me kicking this drum. One thing lets me see it through. One thing I can hold like emotional gold. I still believe in you. There are some who live who will take credit for their own survival. Some will die and they'll take credit for their own revival. Oh, they live on their own. Yeah, and they die all alone. They think they carry the load. They think that nothing is owed. I once believed that I could live that way. I tried it, it isn't true. I will not grow old without a hand to hold. I still believe in you. Still believe in you. There are things I believe that I could not begin to prove. I believe in mountains that a little bit of faith will move. I can't say how I know, I just believe it's so. It's a thing that I feel, and I believe it's real. There's one thing I know it doesn't always show, but I think you know it too. As long as I believe that you believe in me, I will believe in you. Still believe in you.
Still Believe in You. That's another new one from Chris Smither here on WNCW, and from the fine new album. And I just hear so much of that Louisiana background of yours, because you're, I mean, basically, most of your life spent there.
Well, not most of my life anymore, but
oh yeah, okay.
I lived there. I grew up in New Orleans, and I lived there until I was about 22. And I've been living in the Northeast ever since, but it still feels like home.
Okay. It sounds like it's your home. I mean, if I didn't know that when you just told me, I would be like, oh, you're still living down there, aren't you? And but no, you've been up in the Northeast for a while. Okay. Yeah. And we were talking about the saxophonist on your new album, Chris Cheeks. He adds such a sound that to me sounds like it's right out of the French Quarter or something, like, one of the greats.
He's the most unadorned player, but he's unbelievably accurate, and he's just that's the only time I've met him, and I know that he now lives. When he's in town, he lives in Northampton, which is only a few miles from where I live,
Yeah.
and I'd really like to get to know him a little bit better because he's, he has the most stripped down sensibility, and it's just so right, Not very many notes, but the ones that are there are choice, It's just, he's got, and he can do mournful, and he can do extremely complex stuff too. When he came to us, he had just gotten back from Switzerland. He'd been hanging out with some really, far out avant-garde jazz people, playing music that he had to read assiduously. I think one of the things that he liked about our session was that we just said, just go play.
Oh yeah,
We're not going to tell you what to do.
Right.
But he can do that. He's super schooled, and it doesn't show. In his personality at all. It's kind of nice. It's one of those people where you say, you know anything about music? Yeah, he says, but not enough to hurt my playing.
That's a great line. I love that sentiment. We're talking about Chris Cheeks, the saxophonist on Mr. Smithers' album. And then there's another artist on there that sings a lot on it, and I think plays the accordion, Betty Sue.
Betty Sue did the harmonies and the accordion,
on a few of the songs, and she's got a great voice. And this is my first time to see Betty Sue somewhere other than with James McMurtry.
James McMurtry, she works with him a lot.
Yeah, they tour together, and I think she sings with him. So
yeah, she's a fine artist in her own right, and she works with other people very, very easily. That was another good call, and she opened for me on a couple of short tours. I think maybe 2 short tours, total of maybe 8 shows or something like that. And we just got along so well. And then my manager said, why don't you get her on? She's got that kind of voice, get her on. And, I don't think I realized until she was in the studio what a good call that was and how well it came together. But she's got an intimate quality to her harmony singing. It's like she climbs inside your shirt, and she's in there, she's like a part of you. Wow. And it creates an atmosphere that I consciously or unconsciously try to create in live performance of intimacy with the audience. And I want the audience, everybody in the audience, to feel like I'm confiding in them, like I'm telling them, so now listen up, I'm going to tell you something, just to you. And she has that quality that does that, and just brings people in. They go, wait, I got to hear this,
And that makes me think about interesting, advice for someone that wants to be a good accompanist, or in particular a harmony singer, is not just like, oh, I want to add my personality to his personality and then we'll jive together. It's more like, no, I need to get inside this person and become another voice.
Yeah, well, that's,
person.
You're right about that. I mean, and that was one of the things that made these sessions so, we did the whole thing in 5 days.
Wow.
And it was because everybody was there to complement the work, not to stand out. And it's, teamwork,
Yeah, teamwork.
A touchdown every time.
All right. And you've done enough albums that you kind of know what to go for and what to move away from. What album is this for you?
20. They told me.
Golly.
I can't believe it's quite that many, but it's.
Wow, that's great. I was looking at some of your other records that we have in the WNCW library here, and I was looking at the Leave the Light On album from 2006. That was a top 100 pick here, and I remember The Origin of Species. I could listen to that song over and over. It's so brilliant, Chris. But we have a little note on here that from Leave the Light On. It's his 12th album and his 40th year as a musician. And I remember thinking back then, wow, what a veteran. He's been at it for 40 years now. Well, look at now. That would make this about your 58th year in
almost 60. Yeah,
coming up on 60. You're about to turn 80 this fall, and it'll be 60 years at some point soon in the music business. You're getting the hang of it, I guess, by now.
Well, it's getting harder and easier. You know, the travel gets harder, but at the same time, I'm staying in nicer places.
Okay, good.
So,
Good. Yeah, yep. And yeah, you're driving yourself all across the country, just you and your guitar and
yeah, well, you know, this is just, you know, it's here visiting you guys, and then to Asheville tonight, then Nashville, then Atlanta, and then I'm done. I mean, that's just a short swing. You know,
Okay.
the really hard ones don't really start until June. You know, but there's more work in May and so forth. But you know, then it gets, and when it gets long, I wind up taking people with me. You know,
Okay, good.
somebody to drive, somebody
Yeah.
to haul the stuff, somebody to
I would think so. Yeah.
somebody a lot younger.
All right. Not just anyone, someone younger.
Yeah.
Cool.